when I was a schoolboy, back in the 50s, all through the 50s into the 60s, the kind of legend behind him said that apparently wartime, the reason he had such good eyes, and it was fed to the British nation, it was a bluff, complete pack of lies. So he ate carrots. His eyes were so acutely good. He attributed it to eating carrots. It turns out that was a complete cover story because he had radar, which was a thing that the British didn't want the Germans to know. He had advanced radar built into the nose of his mosquitoes, which gave him that leading edge to find the enemy. And apparently, the carrots was a good cover story, complete load of bullshit. But apparently, of course, everybody, bought it. And of course, people ate carrots during the war where they could. So I think, oh well, if he can do it, so can we. So Carrots was this famous, non-story to attribute his great eyesight, but it was the use of state-of-the-art radar, which was in its infancy in those days when they tried to transfer and make it small enough to get into an aircraft. So I don't know whether you knew that, but I only learnt
Well, I
that
did,
in the
but
yeah.
the other part of the story is that Cunningham hated that story
Oh, I
because
see.
actually the Germans worked it out pretty damn quick, but the
Yeah,
story persisted for years.
yeah,
So it was not as strategic a thing as we think it might have been,
yeah,
because obviously the spies are spies. It's not going to be like the spies with going, "Oh right, everyone's eating carrots. We must eat carrots because that's going to be the secret."
yeah,
But they were far more advanced in their espionage than
yeah,
that. But the other side was that it encouraged people to then be eating vegetables, to grow
yeah,
vegetables. So there is another side from a kind of a cultural point of view of, yes, let's keep on doing this thing while this myth exists. But yeah, it's a fascinating, like you say, non-story that was used
yeah,
as a deception, and it could have just come out of one or two people down the pub saying, "Oh, but it's
yeah,
because he ate carrots," and then up it came. I don't know how much official kind of credence it got, but it
yeah.
was certainly, yeah, it's
Oh,
fascinating from
I
that
didn't
point.
know that he hated the story or got to hate, or maybe because he thought it was something that was a bit childish and wasn't possibly he thought he might have thought it wasn't plausible that people might not buy that bullshit. But anyway, I don't, as
Well,
you
I
say
think
that.
yeah, what I had read about it was more the fact that it undermined the incredible technology that they were working
Yeah,
on,
yeah,
which you can then get from that point of view. He'd worked at de Havilland for quite a while. He, I mean, there's a whole kind of connection with my Standard 8 out the front, which was made in the factories in a place called Canley, and
yeah,
so that was where his mother grew up. And so there was the factories up in, I can't remember where it was, further north than Birmingham, but the mosquitoes were being made out there. He was working in Hatfield, at the de Havilland plant down there.
yeah,
So there was this whole kind of um, ability to connect with the highest level of technology, this wonder
yeah,
machine, rather than someone else might have seen it as a bit of a laugh and a joke and all the rest of it. But I think he was so dedicated to understanding the flow of aerodynamics, the process of
yeah,
aerodynamics. I think he was
yeah,
very scientific in his approach. So being known for something that was so easily debunked, so lacking in evidence, I,
yeah,
I do get that connection with that feeling of no, yeah, it's
yeah,
not the type of thing that you would relish down the pub. It's more
yeah,
a distraction from the incredible work that was being done.
yeah.
Um, so yeah,
It
the
sounds
whole story of the Pathfinders is fascinating from that point.
Yeah, it sounds like something some kind of bod with a cup of tea might have thought up in the air ministry during the war. So walking around with a cup of tea saying, I'll tell you what, sir, I wonder if we can sell the story of his incredible eyesight, attribute it to carrots, and then it will promote people growing more vegetables. So we might have killed two birds with one stone. What do you think, sir? Great idea, Chumley, yes.
Well, that's it. Get people to eat more carrots. That's the
Yeah,
memo. All
yeah,
right, how am I going to do this? But
yeah,
but the other thing is that the spread of that knowledge, because we've never spoken about it, but you've retold that story, that legend to me. I can't think of huge amounts of similar kind of within lifetime type things,
yeah,
other than um, I've always found it fascinating certain things that are said on the playground, um, and a certain rhyme will happen in
yeah,
one school, but suddenly it will populate across, and it's just a fascinating form of how these ideas spread through the kind of social connections that were existing then, but it was just friends talking
yeah,
to friends, and there's a certain tune that the friend tune sings, and as well as that with the songs from the wars, the
yeah,
like the comedy versions, and I saw Dad's Army up there. The proliferation of some of
yeah,
the ideas that we had, the rumours that were spread about different things for boosting morale and making adding light to quite a dark time. I wasn't going to say making light of a dark time, but
yeah.
yeah. So tell me about Dad's Army then. How did you get kind of fascinated with that? Were you just watching it at home, or?
Oh yeah. Oh well, when it came on back in the very late '60s, I think the very first episode in black and white, and I just loved it because I love the fact that they got the all the uh, all the parameters right. They got the right kind of script with Jimmy Perry and his colleague, the right cast, which was perfect with Bumptious, Captain Mannery, Arthur Lowe, he played that part so beautifully. All the other characters, and then it became a feel-good television program, which my parents, my mum, well, Dad was passed away by then, but my mum and I used to sit and watch it. But I became very fond of it because I still watch it now because it's just got that feel-good um, it's a nice, cosy watch about Britain having a laugh at itself, at the pomposity and the fun of characters, whilst recognising the fact that during the war they did a great job in the the Home Guard, and they should be. I've just been reading. I came across apparently um, uh, he was a great Shakespearean actor as the forget his name now, the Scottish one, um, Private Fraser. Um, oh God, what was his name?
Oh yeah, I can only remember the eyebrows.
Yeah, um, he played Shakespeare and all sorts, and he was in quite a few comedies. It'll come to me in a minute. Anyway, just the fact that he was in the Home Guard, that the chap who played Arnold Ridley was wounded in the First World War, and then he joined the Home Guard in the Second World War. So he did his stint, in two World Wars, because he was too old to fight in the Second World War. And
Oh,
so, but
John Lowry.
uh,
Is it John Lowry
yeah,
who was the
no, John Laurie. That's it, John Laurie.
John Lowry?
That's it,
Yeah.
John Laurie. He was Private Fraser. Yeah, and he joined the Home Guard because he was too old to take part in the Second
So
World War. So the fact that they could feel the characters from first-time experience, and they obviously imbibed some of that reality into the parts that they played. Because all the other characters, like Arthur Lowe and especially Private Pike, he was too young. They had to sort of play along with the characters and pretend. But no, I just thought it was a lovely feel-good tribute, which has lasted the test of time. It's still watched nowadays, even
mm,
though it's 40, nearly 50 years old. You forget all these programs like Morecambe and Wise, which my mum and I used to watch, back in the 1970s, the peak of their viewing programs, and it ain't half hot, Mum, and some of those other ones. I didn't watch all of them, but the character-driven comedies of the '70s can relate even nowadays. So they don't age well. So I just thought they don't seem to make them nowadays on television. Some of the comedies I see, except for things like, well, I say Blackadder and the Vicar of Dibley, they were back in the '70s. So I keep forgetting some of the ones that I cherish are not modern day ones. They were back in the '70s. So in when I think back, now you mention it, that was a golden era of comedies that translate nowadays. I don't think they can be bettered. Don't
Mm.
know whether you do that, but anyway.
Yeah, I tend now not to go back and watch. I was a big Monty Python fan. I loved The Prisoner. I've been thinking about that fairly recently as well. Um, and
Uh,
it is almost a time capsule rather than these things are relevant to me at the moment
yeah,
because
that's
of
right. Yeah, that's
so
right. A
many
good
different
time.
factors that can be accounted for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a time capsule. It's a good way of putting it. Yeah,
And
yeah,
from that, there is an element of, I mean, there's a great TV series, I don't know if you've seen it, called The It Crowd or The IT Crowd.
yeah. I
Okay.
don't think I've
And
seen that. No, no, I didn't see
no,
that at all. No.
so that's about two IT people who work in a basement and they get a new manager who really doesn't know much about IT. And then it's kind of comedy ensues from there. But there's
Right.
a lot of things that, even though you might not relate directly to the experience that they're having, like being an IT
Yeah,
person, it's more about the fact of the situational cringeworthiness and that type of stuff. That still comes across. Those, oh, I wouldn't
yeah,
like to be in that person's shoes right at this moment. And Dad's Army did capture things like that.
yeah.
Like when the German soldiers are doing the not parade but the interrogation, and then Pike starts singing, and it's
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh, of all times to start, you don't have to have been in front of the camera to then feel like, oh no, what are you doing? And that, I think, is the thing that transfers and translates across,
yeah,
even though it might be a dated setting and that time capsule. But there are some elements of that maybe it's tolerances, maybe it's just attitudes. Um, you know, the whole thing about, well, even I'll just say Essex girls, that stereotyping,
yeah,
rather than actually, no, you can empathise with that. You're not poking fun at a group of people. You're
yeah,
empathising with the situation in which certain people are and wondering how they might get out of it, based on the fact of we know these people, we know these characters, and we've been following them for a while. So,
yeah,
and that I think is something that does translate and is available in some, but it's not necessarily comedy writing. It's not the slapstick. It's not the
yeah,
culturally inappropriate probing, and that it's not even what's the word, self-deprecation. Although I do think a lot of things do have self-deprecation of the main character is a key
yeah,
thing, that then there is humor in that, because that kind of thing has happened to me before. Oh my goodness. And then suddenly you've got that opportunity of sharing that story of it. Or did you see that scene with people who've also had that emotive connection to what had happened? And then there's
yeah,
a sharing of, it's not just a ha-ha comedy, it's now a shared experience and a shared comedy that then spirals out very clever and different writing, more about the human condition than poking
yeah,
fun at a group of people. So yeah, it's a really interesting. I don't tend to watch too much of terrestrial TV because I do pick and choose
yeah,
what I'm actually going to watch. I'm in the mood for this tonight, so I'm watching a lot of stuff about Donald Trump, because this is definitely coming up to um,
oh, yeah,
certain realizations, and I, for me, it's just been
mm,
fascinating watching someone in power and thinking, I could never be like that person. I can see that there are these psychological traits where he doesn't care about the people; he cares about his status. And
mm,
then it's not, in a weird way, you could write it, but you wouldn't want to write it because you could never imagine that it would have so much impact on the world.
yeah,
So yeah, it's not even a comedy; it's just an observation. It is that using the TV as like a fishbowl to look in and just see what their behaviour is, what is going on, and it seems um, far more in depth or chaotic and unpredictable in a way, but it actually happened. This is not
yeah,
me watching a documentary. I'm watching it live, and I have been for
mm,
many years. So. But we don't have to talk too much about Trump. I've got things
yeah.
to do. So
Right, I've got so many
yeah,
things to cover tonight. Before I forget, just to go back out of courtesy, when you asked how I was keeping, I'll just mention the reason I wasn't dead ready to
I'll
phone
stop
you.
stop the recording now.
Okay.
Yeah.
The fact that